So Udi, will you explain for people who are not familiar with this process, just what exactly is bail?
Sure. Look, every year in the United States, millions of people are forced to pay cash bail after their arrest or they face incarceration before trial. This is despite the fact that they are presumed innocent and have not been convicted of a crime. So the way that the bail industry works is that when a person is arrested and cash bail is imposed as a condition of release, what that person then has to do is either pay up that cash bail amount, or what happens oftentimes is that they cannot afford to pay the full amount, so they and usually their families have to turn to the for-profit bail industry.
Then when I got to the jail, they lined us all up in the hallway. We was like maybe a block long in the hallway, waiting to hear by the judge, and they were saying it goes real fast. And I remember them passing him the folder, and he just looked briefly at the folder and then said, okay, bond set at $250,000. And I'm sitting there like, I know I could do math. And I'm like, wow, $250,000. I'm like, so how much do I need to walk? They like, you need $25,000. I'm like, $25,000? So I'm like, is it 10% of that? And they like, no, that is the 10% of your bond. And I remember almost fainting.
It is an explicitly class and wealth-based discriminatory process for determining who gets to be free while they await trial and who is forced to remain incarcerated while they maintain their innocence.
I had been told by the detective that you've been charged with murder. Bail has been set at $250,000.
But was your intention when you put up the $250,000 to run away?
Oh, goodbye $250,000, goodbye jail, I'm out.
At any given time in the U.S., there are nearly 450,000 people locked up awaiting trial, including both those denied bail and those unable to pay. There is another option. If your bail is set at, say, $70,000, but you don't have the money, you can pay a local bondsman to cover the fee for you. But here's the catch. Bondsmen take 10%. That amount will accumulate interest until you can pay it back. And bonds companies are allowed to take extreme measures, including breaking into your home to collect their payments. It's a really lucrative industry with serious consequences for those who can't pay.
I was arguing a motion to get one of my clients out of jail. The bail was set at $100,000, well above his ability to pay. Because he couldn't pay the bail, and because the judge refused to release him without bail, he pled guilty. And to ask somebody to endure that for more than a month, simply because they're too poor to pay bail, undermines the integrity of the entire criminal justice system.
Get out of the car! And then I will light you up. Get out!
In 2015, Sandra Bland was pulled over and arrested after failing to signal a lane change. 3 days later, she was found dead in her jail cell. She died while waiting for someone to come up with $500 to pay her bail.
Authorities say Raynette Turner, a mother of 8, was found dead 2 days after her arrest on a shoplifting charge.
Homewood police say the 18-year-old took her own life on July 14th when she was in the city jail.
She had a warrant out for her arrest because she failed to pay a court fine.
4 other black women died while waiting to post bail after being arrested for minor offenses, within weeks after Sandra Bland's death in 2015. And their cases aren't anomalies. In most jurisdictions, bail is based on a bond schedule or a preset dollar amount that depends on the charge. And these bond schedules don't consider whether a person can actually afford to pay them. Every day, nearly 500,000 people languish in city and county jails just because they can't afford bail. And pretrial bond for black men is 35% higher than for white men charged with the same crime.
The bail system, as practiced, absolutely contradicts the presumption of innocence.
This is John Raefling. He's a senior researcher on criminal justice at Human Rights Watch. He was also a public defender in Los Angeles for 10 years and a private criminal defense attorney for 12 years after that. So he knows what your really shitty options are if you can't afford to pay bail.
Sit in custody, locked up in a cage until you can get to trial. The prosecutor or the judge may offer you a deal, which says if you plead guilty, we'll let you out now. Go into debt borrowing money or having your family borrow money to pay a bondsman.
You know, these guys.
Grumpy's bail bond has busted out all over Middle Tennessee.
I ain't going out like that. I'ma call for bail bonds cause they got my back. They got me out in no time. Now I'm back on track.
Jesus Christ, bail bonds.
Let God release you on a payment plan by calling me. I'm Bishop Murray of Jesus Christ Bail Bonds. 410-292-3029. You're locked up and afraid.
Bail out.
Bail out.
Bail out.
Bail out.
Bail out.
Bail out. Jesus Christ Bail Bonds.
Judicial Correction Services is a private company that allegedly provides private probation services. Essentially, they're a collection agency.
Private probation companies don't charge the courts they work for. Instead, they bill the people they supervise directly in fees every month that they're on probation. That's how they make profits. We found widespread abuses plaguing this whole industry, ignoring evidence that people are actually making heroic efforts to pay down their debts.
Is this all the money you got?
All of it. Being poor has never been a crime in this country.
And yet, we are still throwing people into prison for owing money and not paying it back.
It's supposed to be a way to keep people out of prison who don't really belong there. Private probation really turns all of that on its head.
It's essentially a debtor's prison.
One of the really perverse things is that often the poorest communities are the best markets for them. In a place where people really struggle, people wind up on probation in large numbers and for very long periods of time, and that translates into big money in fees for probation companies.
So when profit becomes the driving force, civil rights get thrown under the bus.
You sit in jail because you can't afford to pay your way to freedom, and you're often confronted with a deal that goes like this: plead guilty, get out, maintain your innocence and go to trial, stay in.
Bonds agents are essentially good old American business people trying to make a buck off a broken system.
If you don't show up for your trial, bail bondsmen routinely hire bounty hunters to track you down, and they have a frightening amount of power.
In all but 4 states, the companies are legally allowed to take almost any measure necessary to capture a client, including crossing state lines and breaking into homes. It's a dangerous business for everyone involved, with few rules and little oversight.
Well, they're not kidding. In 18 states, anyone can become a bounty hunter regardless of education, training, or prior criminal history. The news that any idiot can be a bounty hunter shouldn't really be that surprising to you if you've ever turned on A&E and stumbled across this.
I am a lawman on a mission from God. When I say, freeze, they know what I'm saying.
How's it going, man?
The only way this guy will get away from us is if he kills himself right now and jumps into a pool of sharks.
Walking and talking, you acting like a criminal, running through the woods like a four-legged animal.
Bottom line is, while you're on bond, we own your ass.
Dear idiot, we're coming to get you.
Bounty hunting is the natural high. You gotta think like them, be like them, and react quicker than them.
Put your hands up.
You want tough, you want action, meet Big Benning. They call him Teddy Bear. Denise, the Huntress.
Clearly, these shows are in a competitive marketplace, and the problem is, when people try to stick out, ideas like this happen.
So what do we do differently? We don't just bounty hunt, we bounty race.
Each week, 2 new teams of bounty hunters go head-to-head. Welcome to the most dangerous competition on television, Bail Chasers.
It says something about how comfortable we all are with how our bail system works, that a TV show where people with guns hunt humans for sport seems legitimate because we just think, well, they're just doing their actual job. And when you give bounty hunters this kind of power, bad things happen. Because thanks to reality shows, we think that this is what justice looks like.
We're gonna hunt this scum down.
Now! Bad dog.
He works for me, bounty hunter. Sniffing the trail out. He works for me, bounty hunter. Going operated. He works alone. Connected by cell phone. He
joy.